Hi, welcome back to The Colorblind Architect Does Archicad. And if you haven't already downloaded Archicad 25, you are missing out on some great new features. I wanted to talk about one of them that I found initially a bit frustrating, but as I've gotten into it, I've really liked what they've done. And I'm talking about kitchen cabinets. So kitchen cabinets, let's get started. I've already started by drawing up a simple start to a floor plan, and I've laid out with a polyline where I'm thinking that I want my kitchen cabinets. My plan here is to put a refrigerator and then a series of cabinets with a sink, a sink and a dishwasher, a range, and over here, a peninsula with a dine-in bar, and then a waterfall countertop edge here for the island. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. For the refrigerator, we're just going to go ahead and place that. I've already set that up just because that hasn't changed between version 24 and version 25. Our next step is we're going to start with our main base cabinet. So go to the object tool and let's go ahead and grab from the furnishings folder casework 25, and we're going to choose the base cabinet block. The great thing about the new cabinets is they're basically, whether it's doors or drawers, it's pretty much all the same. And then we're going to go ahead and do some sizing. So they've got the nominal sizes broken up into counter, cabinet, and carcass. So just double check your measurements, make sure they're all good. Personally, I'm not fond of where they default the countertop height at, because in my area, 3 feet even is the standard. Also, the standard is 2 feet for the counter depth. So we're just going to go ahead with a 2 foot wide block. We're going to move on to the next page. On this one, whether or not you use doors, drawers, you need to define how many segments are in this. In this case, we're just going to go with the equal heights with drawers for this cabinet, and so that's good. And then we're going to continue flipping through. We're going to have a backsplash, and that will be good for that. Go on to the counter page. On the backsplash, typically in my region, people go with a vertical backsplash. You can also define whether you want like a bullnose or a rounded edge. I'm just going to leave it squared off just for cleanliness of lines. And we're not going to worry about a sink and tap on this block. And then we're going to go on and set our countertop height, make sure overhangs are good. Finally, when we get to our backsplash, we're going to set that at 4. Now, as you flip through some of the other tabs, those will become important later, and as we get all the way through, there are different pages for surfaces and everything like that. One thing I do want to make sure is on the surfaces, under representation, we want to make sure that the countertop has the right material. The defaults on the cabinets, I'm fine with the fact that they use the white, because the white cabinets are really popular in my area right now, so it just makes sense to leave those as kind of standard. But on the countertop, for some reason, they leave a pine millwork as the default, so I'm going to change that to a stone finish granite. Yes. And same thing on my backsplash, I'm going to go ahead and change that to stone finish granite. I'm going to just check the preview. That is essentially the standard cabinet that you'll see in my region. That's what most people are building with, and so it makes sense to have that kind of as a default. You can add it as a favorite if you want. Just go ahead and pop that in. The other thing you'll notice with these new cabinets is the countertop edge is overhanging here, so your back is still this point here. So when you're working in plan, you'll want to just take note of that. Now, in this case, I'm going to do a range for the stove just because I don't want to get too deep into all the settings right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab a nice little gas range, choose a 5-burner model, 2'6" wide, 2-foot depth, 3 feet high. I'm going to add the backsplash just because that is what a typical entry grade would be. Obviously, if I was doing a more fancy home, I would get parts from Sub-Zero Wolf. By the way, if you are doing a kitchen for a more high-end home, Sub-Zero Wolf has all the Archicad parts for all their equipment available on their website. Really helpful. And we're just going to duplicate this base cabinet here. And now, as I'm looking through this, I think I'm going to put one more here, and then this next one's going to be our counter, our corner cabinet. So for our next step, we're going to go back into the cabinets, the casework. We're going to choose the corner, the L corner, and in this case, let's just double check the carcass. I think what we're going to want on this is to have a 4-inch on the one side, and then on our counter, let's just go ahead and make sure that we're matching on the dimensions that we have on our others, and then move on to the segments. On this one, usually on corners, I just do a door with a Lazy Susan just to make it nice and simple. And so a simple door is going to be fine, a side hung door. We're going to have backsplash, but only on one side. You'll see in just a sec. We're going to switch that up. We don't have a sink, and countertops fine. Now on the backsplash, this is one of the nice features that they've added on version 25. So on these corner cabinets, you can actually choose which side you want your backsplashes. In this case, if I wanted to have a backsplash on this one, I could, but in this case, I don't want that. What I want to have is I want to have the countertop extend over, because we're trying to create a dine-in bar on this side of the counter. So let's go back to the countertop, and on that side we're going to look for the dimension that controls that, and we're just going to add a foot. And as you can see, it unfortunately reduced the cabinet depth, which is one of the I would say that's a bug in the way that it's operating right now. So we're just going to go back to the beginning, and we're going to go back to the cabinet, and we're just going to make that 2 feet again. Oh no, sorry, that was the wrong dimension. The one that we really want is going to be this one. We're going to set that to be 2 feet, and unfortunately it looks like that is not working the way that I had expected it. Okay, I think I'm getting a little bit closer. Unfortunately, as you can see, this corner unit, it's a little bit buggy with the way that it operates, but it does look like I finally have the 2 foot depth cabinet with the 3 foot depth countertop. So a little bit annoying, but yeah, if you didn't have bugs, it wouldn't be Archicad. So now we have the cabinet set up with the right parameters. The only other thing is we need to also set the surface materials for the countertop and the backsplash. So I'm going to go ahead, just match that to what we've done on the other cabinets, and I'm going to go ahead and place it. Okay, so now that we've got that, I can see that it's a little bit off on the length here. So we're just gonna shorten that up so that it matches just a little bit more. What our planned countertop depth was. Now, to save ourselves some time on these, we can actually move this box over here, but to get it to actually line up like the rest of this is, we do need to add the take off the backsplash. So we're going to go back into the settings, and we're going to go into backsplash and turn off the backsplash, and then we're going to add a 1 foot overhang. And same thing, this one, when you add the overhang on the back, it does seem to be a flaw. So we're going to go back to the cabinet settings and put that back at 2 feet. And in this case, because this particular cabinet, I need this for my dishwasher, so I'm going to change this to be 1 segment on the cabinet geometry. And then on segment details, I'm going to set this to be open, because unlike prior versions of the cabinets on Archicad, in version 25 there is no cabinet that already has the dishwasher built in. So in this one, we're going to have to go to the equipment, residential equipment, and we're just going to go ahead and choose our dishwasher as a standalone unit. And you can play around with the settings if you want, but right now I just want to get this into the box so that it is inserted. Okay, our next cabinet block, we're going to put a sink. So on this one, we're going to make it a little bit wider, so I'm just going to go ahead and make this 3 feet. And I'm going to move it on over, snap it to that. And then I'm also going to go ahead and finish off this block of cabinets with a multi-drawer here. In this case, let's just go ahead and fix that. Go to the segment geometry, go back to 3, and go back to having drawers. And in this situation, because this is the end unit, I either want to have an end panel or a waterfall edge. Because my plan is to do a waterfall edge on the island, it might make sense to do a waterfall edge here too. So in this case, we're going to go to the side panel, and on the side panel, we're going to add a panel there, and to make a waterfall edge, we're just going to match the what it is on the countertop, and then we want the front offset to be up a little bit and the rear offset to be about 1 foot. Now, as you can see, we're starting to get that edge, but we do need to make just a few adjustments. I want this to go all the way down to the floor. And so we may need to add a little bit. So yeah, it's actually adding 4 inches there, and now that gets it a little bit closer. Our front panel, we need to add back in that. Maybe make that 1.5 inches. Okay, that looks like that's lining up. And now that we've got our left panel, we can go back over to our representation, scroll on down, and on that left panel, to make a waterfall edge, we're going to change this to a left panel granite. Okay, and now we've got a waterfall edge for that unit. Now let's add the sink into this unit here. Now on this one, we're going to first change the segment geometry to 2. They're not going to be equal heights because we want the sink to be about, let's say about 10 inches, so that looks about right. On the segment details, we do not want uniform functions. What we want is on the top one, we want that just to be a panel. And that's so that we can accommodate the sink. And then on the bottom, we want this to be a door, but we don't just want one door. This is 3 feet wide, so we really need 2 doors. So this is going to be where you're going to change your segment opening type from side hung to double hung. Now, this confused me the first time I saw it, because to me, when I hear double hung, I'm thinking of a window. I'm not thinking of the way cabinet doors would be. I would be thinking that that would be a double hung, a double door side hung. But whatever. That's the way they've named it, so that's how to get to it. And now we're going to go to those front panels and get to the knobs, because as you can see, the knobs are turned horizontal. We're just going to turn those vertical. Okay, and we can also adjust the horizontal position. I like it to be a little bit closer to the ends, and the vertical position, I would like to see that a little bit closer to the top of the cabinet. There we go. Now let's move on to the sink. We're going to turn on the sink options, and in this we can either do a top-mounted square, a top-mounted circle, or a Belfast or farm sink. In this case, let's go with a farm sink, and let's go with a double basin. Yeah, that it's a little bit more of a lip. Okay, and then we want to make this a little bit bigger of a sink, and the width, let's make this about 2 feet 8. Okay, we're looking a little bit better now. And we want this to pop out just a hair. So, and apparently that's not the right dimension. There we go. Popping it out just a little bit. And then we can add a tap. I want a double mixer. And then we can also move this back just a little bit. And we're just going to play around with this a little bit until we get the right location for the faucet. Once we do that, we're good as gold on that. Now, for the island, I'm just going to keep this one simple, and on the island, I'm going to go ahead and just copy the end of this one, match it to the midpoint here, rotate, and I'm going to go ahead and add that there. And I'm also going to lengthen this cabinet in terms of depth, because I did make this a little bit deeper of an island. And now I'm going to mirror that so that we get a copy. And that should be our kitchen. So let's go ahead and take a look at it in 3D just to make sure. So I'm going to go ahead and do the Super Marquee tool. And then on Mac it's F4. On Windows it would be F5. Okay, so it looks like we need to pop our dishwasher up a little bit. But other than that, it looks like we've got our base cabinets set, our island looking good, and that's the basics of the kitchen cabinets, at least. And obviously we can do some upper cabinets, we could do some other things. For the purposes of this tutorial, I mostly just wanted to go over some of the basics. The upper cabinets are going to be very similar, and you can create all kinds of great kitchens, really easy to use. The settings are a little bit complicated, but it's okay. With that said, I'm going to bid you adieu for another day. I'm the Colorblind Architect. Peace out.